right. What a rocking intro. Great job, Garry. Welcome to Hegemony Revealed. I am joined by my two dynamic co-hosts, Shahana Chadapadai. Ooh, I get it.
Yes.
And Garry Turner. And on this new live kind of platform, we're going to be discussing about what hegemony is, how we reveal the truth underneath the lies. And so I think our main goal here is to discuss how we can transition ourselves out of this sort of fog of existence and talk about subjects that make us aware of what's really going on in the world and how we can make dynamic shifts internally and externally. That's going to reverberate out. So, yeah, welcome. So, Garry is the mastermind behind this. So, why don't you jump in and kind of give your piece?
Thank you very much, Trina. And then we'll hand off to Shahana and we'll go exploring. I just think the thing I just want to appreciate you for, Trina, and also Shahana, is what we really want you to observe with this new emerging exploration is non-judgment, curiosity, exploration, co-creation, listening, really everything that we've been conditioned not to express and embody over the last several hundred years, right? And that's not because we're saying anything is right or wrong per se, but this is a space of exploration. And there is a lot of injustice out there. There's a lot of patterns of behavior that are withholding people from being able to step up, step forward, become who they should become. And I'm really excited to see what little nuggets we uncover, how people might engage with us, how they might challenge us with love and care. And yeah, I'm just really open to the exploration. And how about you, Shahana?
Thank you, Garry. And thank you, Trina, for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. I'm really excited about the whole theme of hegemony revealed. The very fact that we are talking about it, talking about the hegemony that has been imposed on this planet, on this beautiful, diverse, pluriversal planet. And what do we have? One single narrative, a monomyth running the show. And obviously, after having run the show and managed to have deceived a lot of people in the process for many, 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 many years, that narrative has now obviously become extremely irrelevant.
Mm, yeah.
And the pandemic was a huge mirror to that. Everything that should have worked failed, from education to healthcare to everything. And
Absolutely.
what could have failed did not.
Mm,
Communities stepped up, frontline workers stepped up, doctors and nurses sacrificed their life. Big oil, big tech, big everything, big data, and big everything was nowhere to be seen. Thank you very much. Silicon Valley suddenly went completely silent.
yes.
And we had these 19-year-old kids working in stores, serving old ladies who could not
Mm,
come to the store at risk of their lives.
mm,
So it
yes.
just goes to show competition never worked,
Ah,
individualism never worked, separation, the biggest of the lies imposed on us.
yes.
So now, with this hegemony that is sort of falling apart in a beautiful pluriversal planet, I'm so very glad to be exploring the myths, the stories, the narratives that have been deliberately made non-existent by this narrative for centuries. It's
Mm-hmm.
time for us to listen to those, learn from those, and literally go back to our roots.
Oh, I
Thank
love
you.
that. I love that. That's what
Thank
I
you.
always say. Roots. We have so many surface issues, and those surface issues remain because we haven't really dug in underneath. There's lots of band aids presented, whether it's for climate change, whether it's for social change. It's always a surface band aid, and that surface band aid only benefits the leaders of the hegemony, the ones that profit out of, off of our kind of, you know, in the clouds, don't worry, be happy. These type of narratives that keep recycling over and over again. I like to call it toxic positivity and and irrational individualism. And the reason why I find it to be irrational is because it separates us so much that we don't have the energetic exchange that's necessary with every living thing, with every living species. I always say it's an objectification for production model that this present hegemony has kind of like just embedded us in. And now, like you said, this pandemic, I think it kind of backfired on the people kind of orchestrating it. And I do think it was an orchestration. I think it was a test to see how far we could be pushed before we break. And we are break. We need to break actually to rebuild. And we have to break this foundation to lay a new one. And so I think it kind of like you said, revealed all of the problems that of everything that didn't work. That's not working. And now people are having their grand awakening, and either they're checking out, like literally checking out, or waking up. And I like to be someplace in the middle of that where I'm just kind of like, well, I'm waking up, obviously. I've been awake for a long time. And, it's the people who have been awakened for a long time that they try to make seem like the crazy ones. The lone woman or man on the mountain screaming, "None of this is real. They're lying to us." And then they say, "Oh God, they're crazy." I think a lot of that myth is being revealed as truth. So, what do you think, Garry?
I just want to thank you for that
Ah,
beautiful share, and also to welcome. We have Manoj, I believe, Nuria, Madeline. Lovely for you to join us all. Thank you. I think the thing that really strikes me really powerfully, Trina, as you both know, and Shahana, I work what I call in the middle of the belly of the beast. So I work in the chemicals industry, right?
Mm,
And until 3 years ago, I was stuck in that supremacy pattern of binary thinking of I can't be in a sector that's quote unquote bad for the planet.
mhm.
Yeah, I have to be either attacking that sector or I have to be inside it, completely complicit. And what I've realized the last few years is actually my role, Trina, is to be in the belly of the beast and try and hold space for what might be coming, not to save it, not to be a savior, not to be a technical expert, just to be there and say, is there a better or other ways that we can imagine beyond this currently dying paradigm?
Right.
And I don't think we allow ourselves from the inside out to be that courageous, to believe we are allowed to imagine beyond these conditioned hegemonic narratives of you must be this
Yes.
version of you, that tiny little box. That's all you
Yes.
deserve to be. That's what you've been told you deserve to be. And it's amazing how over many, many years, it's almost like the sand being compacted. We're at that stage of sort of having nothing left to believe in. And we're suddenly going, oh my God, no, we can. What, you mean I've got this complete abundant possibility and I am connected to everybody else and everything, and there's massive injustice, right?
Yes.
So I'm not going to get stuck with being a yogi. I'm not going to be stuck over here going, it's all perfect, we're all one. That is true, but there is big systemic injustice to be dealt with. So how can we bring that complexity into dialogue like we are now and really start to explore with care, with connectedness, but also with constructive challenge? And I'm finding that my role, which I never thought it would be, Trina and Shahana, is to be in the middle of the belly of the beast,
yeah,
trying to
Mhm.
shine a light that there is other ways to do that.
right.
And yeah, that's been a shock to me, to be honest. And I didn't even know what hegemony meant until 2 years ago. Honestly, classic. So, how about you, Shahana? How does that resonate, or what would you challenge around that?
No, absolutely, Gary, because again, like Trina said a while back, and what you're saying totally aligns with what I believe because it's easy to check out. That's also one of the approaches that, oh, I can't take the system. I don't believe in the system. It's rotten. It's dying. So I'm not going to be a part of the system. And then I check out and I feel good about it. Saintly. That's not the way. I kind of would like to use the term seeker. I think each one of us here are seekers, not in that saintly term, but seekers in the true sense of the word, looking and seeking to understand and alleviate what is currently rotten and hospice that, and also give birth collectively to what is wanting to emerge from our collective consciousness. And I'm using the word collective repeatedly, deliberately, because, we used the word individualism. I think the past hegemony deliberately sowed individualism to keep each person separate entities, because that is what served that narrative. If you can keep each one at each other's throats, with otherization, with competition, with strategies and whatnot, if you can keep each one looking at another as their enemy, or thinking of themselves as so self sufficient that they don't need anyone else on except themselves, then you've got these atomized individuals who are easy to break apart, who are easy to polarize, who are easy to fragment. But when you have a strong community, you can't fragment them. You can't break them. You can't. So that the strength of communities give people a different kind of resilience, which the old hegemony is scared of. So
Absolutely.
individualism, keep people as individual sticks that they can be pushed against and thrown against each other. So everyone is someone's enemy. Everyone, everywhere, anyone who's different is my enemy. So enough
Yes.
of that, enough of those us versus them, you versus me, enemy versus friend. I think it's time for us, and that's exactly what we are doing, seeking uh, an alternatives to many, many possible futures that are emerging from dialogues like ours that are being held across this planet. And I
Yes.
think in
Gosh.
many little pockets.
I
Yes,
mean, I got goosebumps off of all of that because
that's it.
it's so true. It's like everybody feels in this world of social media, everybody's so antisocial. Everybody's so afraid to connect. You know, um, I've seen just recently, I saw a post about how lonely men are, okay,
Yeah.
in this current time. And I laid out some ideas and some solutions. And I would say one of those things is to be able to admit you're afraid, to be allowed men should be allowed to admit they're afraid without a consequence of attack or a label of weakness, because it is natural for us to be afraid. And we need to talk about what that what the root of that fear really is. Because I think right now, in the hegemony, like you say, it's falling apart. Let's manifest that. Men, some men, because I had a lot of men on this thread, kind of attack me and say that this I was moralizing. And I said, well, I can't moralize facts. You know what I mean? These are not moralities. The fact is that there's not been a space for men to cry because other men say they can't. And even bigger than that is that the men who are the minority, who are controlling the narrative, know that they need to keep men on their side to control females. And I always say that women, we are the spiritual guides of humanity. We are the ones that say, hey, let's look at it this way, let's feel it that way. And because that's just where we live in on that plane. And that makes unity, that makes connection. You you can't, they're trying to break apart a natural union. between the creators of humanity, you know what I mean? And make it negative, make it violent, make it scary, make it everything. Now, women are afraid of men, and we never should have been. We should be protected and feel protected by them. And not that we need protection, I think we do a pretty good job of protecting ourselves. But it's more like having a sense of peace, and that's where I don't go in for let's be happy. I want peacefulness. And the only way that we're going to get peacefulness is if we get together, like you said, Shahana. We have to create community. And one of the principles of emotional intelligence is social skills, community skills, that being able to live in community with each other without us being at each other's throat. But we have to be self-aware. We have to know how to self-regulate. We have to know what motivates us. We have to have compassion for ourselves and others, or we don't get to that. So we have to get to those other principles to get to the community ones. So, it's sad how spread apart and how divided we are, but that's the only way that they can keep power. It's called divide and rule. So, yeah, what do you think about it, Garry? We're just going around in a circle.
A lovely circle. And it's, of course, myself being male identifying, it resonates very much. And I'd love to come to some of the comments, if I may,
Yeah.
Shahana and Trina, just to engage people that are with us as well. So, again, thank you so much, Nuria, Madeline, for being with us. I just think I love this, what Madeline shared here, like seeking also to rediscover what we have lost. And I love that. So there's this phrase that keeps coming up for me the last 12 months, which is a remembering. Like it's always been
Yes.
there, right? It's always been
Yes.
there, but it's just been so ground down and stuffed out of us. And I just love that so much. And I also just wanted to add a point. I responded to Madeline. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Madeline. Is it a dialogue between the three of us or with all the participants? I think that's a really great question. So this is the first show. This is the first one that we've done around. See, I always struggle with this word.
Hegemony.
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 Hegemony revealed.
Hegemony revealed.
and, and I think what's really by the end of this show, nobody should be able to say it because it should be gone, right? Anyway,
Right.
bit of a big wish. But I just want to put my reply there. So one of our grand visions for this show is, yes, we're setting it up at the moment. This is the first inaugural exploration. But Trina had the idea, and I think we're all in agreement that we'd love to get you on. If you've got a perspective, constructively challenging, as long as it's open-hearted, generative, and curious, you're invited. Right? We don't want to make this a monopoly. We're not here just to like the sound of our own voices. So if you're curious, you're interested, drop any one of the three of us a line. So yeah, I'd love to come on one of your future shows. We're planning to run them probably every 2 weeks. And yeah, the more perspectives, the more generative, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I think that's as much as I'll say for now, Trina. And any additional thoughts from your side, Shahana?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Madeline, Nuria, what Garry said, and also the fact that these conversations, these dialogues, are little seeds that we are trying to plant, and the more seeds that we plant, the um, more conversations that we generate together collectively, the more our chances of revealing and finally forgetting that hegemony ever existed.
Mm.
So, yes, we totally, totally want y'all to join us, want more
Yes.
of y'all, many of y'all, as many
Yes.
as possible. May our tribe keep growing. That's all
Yeah.
I want to say.
And then we're a community. We're trying to create a community, a movement, per se. I always say that I am on my podcast, EQ Above IQ. It is a movement. It's a way to reframe. It's a way to rethink what is important, not just what we have been fed, that not just what we've been programmed, to foster critical thinking again, um, and just reveal. That's why it's called Hegemony Revealed. So definitely, the more the merrier.
And I love what Madeline has written. We can learn to recommune together. That's exactly
Yes.
it. Reconnect, remember that we are totally interconnected,
Mm,
indelibly interconnected, no matter what the mega dominant narrative would want us to believe at this moment, because it
that-
serves their purpose. We are so interconnected that one tiny nano invisible virus swept across the globe before anyone could say Jack Robinson, and no one knew what to do.
yeah. Yeah. That's you said it. I love that Jack Rabbit.
Yeah, it's a new one on me as well. I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. I'd love to add, if I may, to this exploration, because I think it's such an important one, because I didn't always come from a place of non-judgment, honestly.
Mm, mm,
And I think what I found is that mirror to myself, right? Someone that's been bullied as a kid, didn't know how to process the trauma, held onto it, had all the dysfunctions that come out of that as a result, right? Very, very traditional trauma story. What I see around so much of industry, big industry, is literally a bunch of unprocessed trauma. There is no reason on this planet why you would want 8, 10, 20, 1000x your average employee's salary if you felt okay in yourself. Right? I'm just absolutely categorically clear on that. And I think the
yes.
more we can start to spot those patterns, instead of going down on one or the other side of like, yeah, they should have that capitalist, or oh, it should be that socialist, like all of those words and those boxes just divide us.
Yeah.
And I think I'm more curious about what's going on inside of that human being that happens to have a lot of hegemonic power because of circumstance or because it's the old boys club or something going on. But I now look at those leaders going, what's it like being you in this moment?
Oh
What would it be like to be able to
gosh.
release that pressure, that inner tension that we know is not being felt on the
Mhm.
outside, you know? That
Yeah.
vulnerability you spoke about, Trina, that ability to say, I'm afraid, or actually, I'm really scared that suddenly I run a multinational company and everybody's talking about social justice and DEI.
Mm,
I've got no idea what to do in this.
right.
Mr.
Right.
CEO, that's okay. There's people like Trina and Shihana and I and a load of others there to support you with it. No one wants to kill you, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think, and I really want to touch on that because I think one of the biggest and saddest issues around racism and also the the ideal of reparations is that for some reason, well, I know what the reason is. When you feel shame, when you feel shame versus guilt, because guilt is action oriented. I did something wrong versus shame, there's something wrong with me. Okay. So there's a lot of programming of there's something wrong with me. It's a state of being rather action oriented. Everything is cause and effect. I did something that created an effect, but when you start to internalize what you did, which could have been a mistake, which could have been, I didn't understand, I didn't know that would happen, then you take steps to repair. But instead, there's this indignant desire to dig the heels in and say, I got to be right, because if I'm not right, there's something wrong with me, you know? And it's not wrong with you, it's wrong with your actions. And you can always make amends for actions if you say, I'm sorry, I'm now recognizing that was a bad choice. And so, how I'm going to repair this is A, B, C, and D. Okay. I'm going to be accountable. And that is, I think that's as a global society, as like with corporations, as with people who have been indoctrinated into racist views, they have to be able to release the shame to stop the blame. Okay. So release the shame to stop the blame, because that's how they project and redirect. They're trying to say, okay, I can't be wrong, because if I admit I'm wrong, all of these things that I value are going to go away. But that's never been the case. Black people are not, I don't think anybody's out to eliminate white people. But that fear is there because It's kind of what they did. Not kind of, it was, genocide, murder. But where did all that come from? And I think it came from a deep sense of shame and low self esteem that was perpetuated on them for centuries, you know, by the ruling class who said that you are beneath me. And then those hurt children, those hurt individuals went out and narcissistically colonized the world. And here we are. It happened, it's done. But now, what do we do to repair? We don't have to keep doing the same thing. We don't have to keep defending the same pain and just kind of replicating it over and over through family, through business, through everything, through environment. You know, we don't need oil. There's lots of alternatives. Like hemp. I sent these guys a video on hemp. How this is one of the most I'm kind of segueing because it makes sense to me. There is an alternative to everything. And hemp, for example, you can use it for everything. It can revolutionize the all industries to be sustainable, to be biodegradable, to be profitable. I'm not saying money has to go away, but when are we going to make choices as individuals and as a community to say, I don't want that anymore? I don't want to take the dead thing. I want to take the living thing and make something beautiful with it. So when do we make those choices? That's all I have to say about
Love that.
it.
I love that, Trina. And when you said about the dead thing and the living thing, what has happened is, because that narrative has been perpetuated for so many centuries, we have collectively forgotten that we live on a very, very living planet. That narrative has turned it into an object of resourcification. Everything is resources in the game of profit and development and growth. Everything, right from that mountain to the corals under in the oceans to the fish to everything is resources equal to money. So if the Amazon forest left to itself generates quote unquote less dollars than a deforested Amazon, then deforest it, because that's what will increase the GDP. But when did and how did that GDP, whatever it means, become the bottom line for human well-being, for planetary well-being, for happiness, for and obviously it hasn't. You wouldn't see the rise of suicides, you wouldn't see the rise of depression, you wouldn't see the rise of shootouts in schools where no one thinks twice before going in and entering and shooting 6-year-olds. Obviously it's not a healthy world. That GDP-fied world has not led to a lot of well-being. So there is this term that comes from, I believe, Ecuador, Bolivia, and buen vivir, good living. So obviously growth and development hasn't led to that. It has. So we have growth, but growth of what? Cancerous growth. But what has grown? Who has grown? Who has profited? Who has benefited? Who has that growth impacted positively or negatively? And how did we all become mesmerized by this completely idiotic narrative of trickle down economy and free trade and whatnot that has kind of grasped and has the world in its clutch, and with all its policies and legal rules and regulations, it has managed to create this veritable nexus that holds the rest of the planet hostage to its absolute endless lust for power and greed. Unless we can demolish that narrative right from its roots, literally uproot it and throw it away, and collectively co create very, very different ways and beings and knowings and ontologies and epistemologies of living, we are not going to be able to, Or rather, let me rephrase that. We are going to be able to reimagine and remember, because that is our natural way of living. This was just an
Yes,
unnatural hiatus that got in between our way.
absolutely. Gosh, all all sage, all
Also,
sage. I don't. Okay, I don't know what to add to that. This just applause because man,
I'm not even sure what I said, honestly.
you know what it is. I got goosebumps from the download because that's how I get.
Same, totally
I get
same.
yeah, I get a download of something and I just feel it and I say it and when I see somebody else in that space, I just oof, I got goosebumps. I'm serious. I got
I
goosebumps.
have to hear back because I have no idea what I said.
It's the one good thing about technology. This has been recorded, and we can actually go back, which is brilliant. I just want to acknowledge Nuria, who shares, GDP measure for profit. It's not the right measure for human and planet well-being. As far as we do not change that measure, we will be
Yes,
blind. What a great metaphor,
absolutely.
Nuria.
Absolutely.
I love that. We are literally blindfolded to what's possible right now. And the thing is,
Yes.
and this is where hegemony for me is so dangerous as a system, as a way of being, as a system of thinking, is bring it really practically to life before we maybe start to wind down towards a checkout.
Yeah.
Is for me, I live with it. I'm sure we all live with it every single day, right?
Right.
What if I say this to them? Will they sack me? What if I say this to them? Will they call me a racist? What if I say this to them? Will they? Like that what ifery, that fear of what ifery,
Mm.
is so underpins so much of this fabric of hegemony that if we were just able to go back to your beautiful point, I'm accountable for me. I can ask better questions from a place of love and connection with curiosity and be willing to take the feedback. That's my invitation to anyone watching this live or watching this back. And I'm inviting myself to do it more as well. Is if we can come from that energy,
Mhm.
it's very difficult to build a foundation of division
Right.
from that type of it, from my point of view anyway. And I just wanted to offer that into the space because it's something I continue to practice myself. And the more we can catch ourselves deferring and saying, hey, it will be okay when that person does their bit, or it'll be okay when my wife does what she's meant to be doing, or when my friend finally gets around to voting the way I've told him to vote for 25 years. The more we can come back inside ourselves, the more potential opens up on the outside. That's certainly been my experience anyway, so far.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's this is the only way we're going to solve this. We all have to individually have the self-awareness to take those steps. The problem is that when you're stuck in the hegemony, they tell you who you are, but you don't know who you are. You're just one of the drones. They want you to be one of the drones. They don't want you to have feelings. They don't want you to explore your inner self. They want you to do as you're told, just like the child you were, you know, and they teach you to do it to your own children over and over. So when your child challenges you, when your child answers, asks questions of you, just be quiet and do what I say. That's where we live in, you know? And the consequences are punishment, ridicule, and that has to stop. We have to get back to a place of, I do a class called Mindful Storytellers where we pass around a Native American talking stick. And before we can speak, the next person can speak, they have to repeat back to the best of their ability what the other person just said. It really deepens the idea that you've been listened to and you've been heard. And it just creates such a nice bond. So, one of the people here commented, "Get it back to our roots," or going back to the beginning, or something. I'll find it, but it's so true. The ideal of advancement and technology has killed the most important aspects of who we are. And it's not meant to be this way. And we feel this dis-ease. And that's why we have dis-ease. Okay. That's why we get sick. That's why we don't feel good about ourselves or other people. This fear based, you know, something's wrong with me, you know? And so until we get to back to our roots, until we give give respect to the elders of this planet who said we need to protect her for the next 10 generations, until we start thinking in this way again and reject this ideal of objectification for production. We live on a thriving planet, as Shahana said. This we're alive with each other, and this body is just part of it. Let's get that energetic connection going again, because that's what I miss. That's what I truly miss.
Love that.
Hmm.
Well, I don't know what happens in the time energy continuum, but that's 36 human minutes, just so you both know, which is mind blowing. That literally feels like 2 minutes. I don't know about you two, but like
Yeah.
I
this is
know.
Yeah.
that's just, and it's more. The only reason I look at it is a place of honouring of both of you more than myself and anybody that might be watching. But I'd love, if I may, to invite us maybe to do a bit of a reflective checkout. Just in the moment, I'm thinking, what have we been reminded of ourselves, or what are we remembering for ourselves from this dialogue? And what's an invitation for those that have joined us live or may watch this conversation back? So I'd love some thoughts from you. Maybe Shahana, if you don't mind sharing from your side, that would be lovely. Thank you.
I think what I'm, not I think, what I am taking away from this conversation today, and looking forward to many, many more such in the future, is the fact that, through our schooling, through the cultures, through everything, what we are calling today hegemonic narrative has been so drilled into us right from our birth, right through our bedtime stories, right through everything that came our way, that it kind of created blinkers. We are like horses with blinkers who can only see like this,
Mm.
only see like this. And it's a bit like running blindfold in a very, very dense and diverse forest, but we can't see the diversity. And
Mm.
whatever little glimpses of diversity we catch through our peripheral vision scares us, because
Mm.
we've been taught that reductionism, yes, no answers, right,
Mm.
wrong, the dyads are the safe ways to be. So, what I'm taking away is take off our blinkers, step back, widen our peripheral visions as wide as we can make them, and look at all the hidden narratives, stories, tales that are lurking in the crevices and edges of this planet, that have been deliberately kept unseen, unheard, deliberately made non-existent. So there is a word for that, epistemicide.
Mm.
So ways of many, 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 many innumerable ways of knowing and being and learning and seeing have been deliberately, covered up to create this one world vision. If we could tear away that cover and learn from all those narratives, our one lifetime would be too short to learn everything, but just welcome and be infused with all of those, energies and visions. Imagine the narratives of that we would remember and reimagine collectively, truly collectively, not a bunch of European white men. Sorry, Gary, but not a bunch of
I take it.
European
I take
white
it.
men imagining the way the world should be run and trying to run it. We just, we don't even fight that narrative. It's all old, over, done with. It's failed, and we can see its failures in all the failures that are staring us in the face, right? From austerity to NHS and whatnot is happening. So we can see the failure. We don't even have to fight it. It's gone. It has lost its own battle. We just have to
Yes.
remember the other narratives that are waiting to be, rediscovered and refound and reintegrated.
Mm.
That's it. And that
Revealed.
revealed, yes, and
Yes.
rewoven together in this lovely, lovely patchwork quilt.
Yes. Yes. That's beautiful, Shahana. Shahana. Well,
And
as I reflect on everything everybody says, I just have such a sense of gratitude. And I thought I was alone in this feeling. Honestly, I have felt so alone and isolated in these thought patterns because unfortunately my life and my childhood is surrounded with people with deep rooted hegemonic thinking. And ever since I was a child, I said, this doesn't feel right. So I've been the oddball. I've been the scapegoat. I've been the white sheep of the family because I'm already black, can't use that one. But, I just, it never fit and it never felt right. And so what I have is a sincere feeling of gratitude that we're creating this space to have these talks about these thoughts that I've had my entire life, honestly. And so I'm so grateful that we're at this space and there's so many people coming on board, seeing that the hegemony has been a smokescreen, seeing that, colonialism was a huge failure no matter how much they tried to propagandize it and capitalize it. It is a huge failure on the global scene, on the global way of living with other beings on this planet. Animals are extinct. We have whole habitats destroyed, and now, oops, we need that tree and oxygen. Oh, that animal had a very important role in the biosphere. Now there's no more left. Oh, we're overproducing cows because we need to eat so much meat. And by no means am I a vegetarian, but the point is this: all that methane is making us go crazy. You know what I mean? I could have rhymed that, but I chose not to. But I'm so grateful for this dialogue, and I hope more and more people join it so that we can actually make better choices for each other as a community and the planet because we need her. We need her. We're not going to get it out of this alive if she's not with us.
Wow, I'm literally like back of my neck is just rushing like crazy. Honestly, what I've really enjoyed, and I want to thank you both and everybody that's joined us today, is I've done live streams in the past. Shana and I do the community campfire as well, which is also beautiful like this. But there's been something very grounded and profound about today in that it's obviousness, it's depth, it's complexity, the potentiality of it, and all from a place of realism, right? We're not sitting here smoking kumbaya, like maybe one day, this is it's been an incredibly practical, I believe, conversation with a lot of signposts and metaphors and places to get curious. So what I'm taking away is the power of community for sure. Like this is the first time we've done this, and the level of engagement in the chat's been beautiful. Like you can feel that energetic that form already coming together. The other thing I also want to invite is particularly to my kinfolk, those white men. This honestly, yes, I may have spent 9 years on this personal project called Garry, but there's a lot more. Look, yes, I am with a black and brown woman speaking live. This does not need to be abnormal. Like it shouldn't be rare that we do this, right? I'm not scared of Trina and Shahana, but there are relationships behind why we're here. There's been an effort to get to know each other behind the scenes, and that takes intentionality. And that's my invitation, particularly to my kinfolk, is be really intentional, not saviorship, not collection, really intentional about wanting to meet people that don't look and sound like you. You'll be amazed at the reception you'll get when you come from a place of curiosity. Now, I want to hand it back to you, Trina, because you opened us up today. You led us, and I want to let you. Maybe you're going to sing,
No,
share a
I'm
bit
not
of your
gonna
poetry or
swing.
something. I don't know, but we'd love to hand it to you to check us out. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Garry. I appreciate that. And, thank you everyone for joining us on Hegemony Revealed. We're going to continue these conversations. We're going to continue these connections. Um, Please don't hesitate to contact either of us privately if you have questions about things that you heard on this live, and share, please. The most important thing to build community is to share. If there was something on this live that resonated with you, please share with your community the replay, and let's grow together. Let's awaken together. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Shahana.
Thank you.
Cheers, Trina.
Thank you.
Bye.